Good morning, everybody. Everybody in Facebook land. It's early, yes, because it's cold. And yesterday I was writing some stuff about the microbiome and about cancer and fungus and the zombie and the Walking Dead and all that. I remember a scene in The Walking Dead because I'm talking about plot lines and characters and settings and all that. And it shows the protagonists, the heroes of the show, were holing up in some abandoned type of warehouse. And someone made a noise. And whenever someone makes a noise, it alerts the zombies in the area to go and converge and go and cannibalize that alive person, because zombies are like half dead. They're just feeding strictly on instinct. And so they are cannibalizers. And so, and then, so the scene then did a real high bird's eye view, and there was all these zombies in the area that heard this noise. And you could see like a flow, like waves of these zombies that are converging onto this person or warehouse. And it looked like something you'd see in a microscope when cancer is attacking or uploading information and taking information and destroying an old cell. Now, you can turn it around with the zombie and it's the old cells destroying new cells. And that's also could be looked at from the vector point of view. You have all these antibodies, which are all these zombies that are converging on an evolution, trying to destroy the evolution. Okay, so it can work on both ends. You have to understand which perspective to come from. You can come from the perspective of antibodies going after anything that is trying to destroy, or you can have antibodies that are going after things that are trying to evolve relative to your vantage point. And so when I look at family and friends, and this is probably why you see the breakup of the family. This is why you see a lot of divorce. This is why you see a lot of problems in relationships. Why people go through people very quickly. I know throughout my whole lifetime I've watched situations develop and evolve and then devolve and break apart. And why do these things happen? Why do people go from relationship to relationship, or go from friendship circle to friendship circle, or have a constant back and forth, or people just ignore each other's idiosyncrasies and just deal with it because that's all they have. And so they just then conform to even what probably isn't good for them, but that's the only thing they have. So they just conform versus trying to evolve. And so why is it that is the issue? It's because some people want to evolve, and one person is feeding off another person, the other person doesn't have any more to them to give. It's why is cancer prevalent in relations? Because people are working at a deficit. You see, when you look at a group think like a crowd, like, let's say I went to this group think type seminar called Landmark Education. Not a bad place. They have some great tools and technology, but eventually you have to graduate above the landmark education thought process and start applying real life to it, and not their specific point of view on how you should use landmark education. And so you notice, like, in a group of 100 people, and they have a person in the front of the room that is directing the crowd and directing and guiding the curriculum. Then you see that people either rise above the crowd, so they're feeding off the crowd, and then people don't get it. And so they fall below. They fall to the bottom. And why does that happen? Because they've been cannibalized by the crowd. So a strong person will feed from the crowd and stay alive. A very weak person will be cannibalized by the crowd and then contract cancer, disease, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders. What else? Age and degrade. And so you see all in all society. Because here's the thing, this isn't new because of COVID, what I'm talking about. This has been happening for freaking centuries. Okay, I'm just bringing it up now because I feel more enlightened to talk about it, because I have the tools and I have the words and I have the mental clarity to understand what goes on. But crowds, that's why the breakup of the families, because the government is trying to break up the cancer, not only in families, but also in groupthink type of situations. But it was necessary to pull out the innovation. The cream's going to rise to the top. The dead weight, the shaft is going to fall to the bottom. And you're seeing that in our society. You see that in all different communities. Yes, we have rising stars in our communities, but they quickly fall after a certain amount of time. And so that's kind of like a false rising, because the fall is very quickly thereafter. Once you peak, which is happening in families, friends, and body, mind, and spirit, people peak, groups peak, friendships peak, relationships peak, and then they fall. They don't find some kind of like comfortable equilibrium where there's a little bit of rising, a little bit of falling, but eventually both people, if you're in a relationship, in a very dynamic, awesome relationship, then eventually, even though you have the rises and falls, the peaks and the valleys, you still stay on the same path. But what goes on in families is families cannibalize the elderly. The children eat the parents. Sometimes the parents eat the children. You hear about, that in nature, and you see that in infanticide. Okay. And so all types of groupthink behavior is like watching cancer converge. Okay. So then you look at it from the antibody point of view of attacking, right? Either there's an antagonist antibody or an agonist antibody going after that specific protein, or it's cancer replicating. So watching your friends and family and all that stuff, when people are converging together, whether it's to a party, a group function, I don't care what it is. There are people in there that can't handle that energy. Well, they were able to handle it before the COVID. No, they could handle it, yes, because it was a comfortable decline. But when you have that much aggressive energy in a mutating virus, what you used to do is actually now accelerated. The outcome and the intentions and the energy are accelerated. So now group gatherings and activist types of punching air type stuff, rioters, mobsters, party goers, whatever, now they are actually even taking more from their crowd, or they're having more taken from them. Okay? And so you see it now. See, before you couldn't see it because it was something we were used to. Now with this new virus in the environment and with all the stress in the world, it's like a time-lapse photography that's been sped up. Just like watching, The Walking Dead from a very bird's eye view of all these waves of zombies going after that protein, regardless of which side of the spectrum you stand on, whether it's the antagonist antibody side or the agonist antibody side. When there's that much production of energy converging onto something like cancer, when cancer replicates that quickly, it's because the body's at a deficit. So when people are hanging out together, people are at a deficit. Okay, they're taking bites out of their friends, their family, their mom and their dad, their sister, their brother, their kids are doing the same thing. And so guess what? Eventually, when you're at a deficit, cancer happens, because then that's an invading virus that senses the weakness and it's trying to take over. No different than when you have a weak person who's a victim and a strong person who's a predator. That strong person's going to overtake the weak person, and that's invasion too. That's like a cancer as well. And so you got to look at how much influence you have over your friends, your family, your mom and your dad, your sister and brother. And this is kind of why I stay on my island, because I feel people trying to take over me. I know I'm very aggressive and I'm very influential. And so I tend to monopolize other people. And so instead of me falling into somebody either trying to monopolize me, or I try to monopolize them, because it's all that power of who's going to monopolize who, I just stay back, because then it becomes a fight. Especially when you have two people who want to monopolize each other and they won't, then there's this. So I'm just like, I don't want to deal with all of that, because there's so much aggressive energy out there. And even if you don't take part in this, then you're getting monopolized. You're getting your life force being sucked out of you, siphoned out of you. And I watch it out there. I've seen it in the last 15 years of my life. And that's what goes on in families. And so that's probably why you see the breakup of the family, because homogenous families with homogenous thought processes, cancer is prevalent. Just homogenous lifestyles means you're not evolving. You are actively devolving because you're trying to stay at equilibrium, but you can't be in a cured state in a dynamic environment. So homogenous people, homogenous lifestyles, homogenous groups, homogenous towns, homogenous cities, countries, whatever, they won't survive each other. They will feed on each other until there's nothing left, until the host is completely done with. And that's what cancer is. You let cancer get out of control, the host is done. You've watched people in hospice. You've watched grandma, grandpa, people on their deathbeds. Everybody converges and be like, oh, we're so sorry for grandma, grandpa, this and that, right? Funerals. They're feeding off that energy of the person, the last little bit of energy that person has. Like they're just taking the air from the person because there's so many people wanting to wish and do this and do that. And so instead of going to funerals now, instead of going to someone's wake or deathbed, now everyone's on Facebook, whether it's a GoFundMe account or they're all like, they all want then the social capital, the energy from their community. And so yeah, I mean, I see everything for what it is. And that's why autonomy is going to be, that's why, I mean, really, when you think about it, you have to learn how to be on your own. You really do. Some people don't know how to be on their own. And so they do depend on people around them. It's great to find a partner that is along your lines, that is able to evolve if you're in an evolutionary stage. If you're not in an evolutionary stage, then it's going to be a crapshoot who you're going to bring into your world because they're going downhill. And when people go downhill, they take you down with them. And so now you have to be very, very cognizant. If you're trying to live in this society and you're trying to evolve, you got to figure out who you're partnered with. And are they going to raise you up or are they going to bring you down? Okay? Because you can't really depend on people out there. They have their own shit going. They have a lot of stuff going. It takes enough to survive by yourself. And then when you add in other factors, people wanting to do this and wanting to do that, want to hang out, blah, blah, and you're like, dude, I got to deal with my own shit. You got to go and figure out your purpose. What is it that runs you? Why do you want to be in this world? What is your aim? What is your goal? Evolve. If you're not evolving, then you're going to find the nearest person to glom onto and siphon the life out of them. And that's what happens. And that's what's happening right now with people. And so if you're in a partner, if you're doing the JJs and you're partnered with someone who's not doing it, but they're still relatively very strong, you can counter those unintended intentions and still raise them up and still bring, and even though they're trying to, take, not that they're trying to take it, but they're just doing what they do in any relationship that's relatively normal, right? And so if you're in that kind of relationship where you're doing the JJs and they're not, you can regenerate from anything that is being siphoned from you just by being in a relationship. Because relationships take a lot of energy. They take commitment. They take a lot of energy. And you have to be strong to be in a relationship. Because if you're not, then guess what? You can see who is taking more energy from a relationship. You just see by the size of people. Or you see them equally taking from each other, and then they are next to nothing. Or they're so obese that they've added so much to life, but no one's releasing. Or one is very skinny, one is very obese, and so the skinny one is being siphoned off by the obese one. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean or be like whatever, but you can see how the thermodynamics happen when it comes to substance and relationships and who is siphoning energy off of who. If you see a relatively equal on each side and that they're doing the JJs and that the other person is maintaining their own equilibrium, I'm maintaining my own equilibrium, and we're dealing with our own battles separately, not completely taking on each other's identity, but we still found a common ground, and that's my husband and I. I use him and I as an example a lot because he's not doing the JJs, but not that he needs to. He did a few resets in 2018, but I don't know. He's kind of an anomaly because he doesn't take any more medication than I know of. He still feels the pains like I do. He did a few waterfalls in 2018. Since then he has felt stuff, though. He used to have the psoriasis in the back of his leg. It's not there anymore. He said it now traveled to his ear, but okay, but his ears look fine. And if anything, I'll just pour some salt on it if I really have to. If he really has to, he knows what he can do. And so I'm still waiting to kind of see what goes on with him because he is definitely uncharted territory. Okay, I'm not doing the J juice anymore. He dealt with the pains, but I sneeze a lot and I poop, of course. I blow my nose. I hear him sneeze occasionally. My dog sneezed like 6 times yesterday. We're dealing with some major pestilence here, so I had to give her, because a few fleas were on her, so I gave her a bath, and that's why she's getting the hot spots. But I didn't see them until last night when it was, I guess, got really bad. And so that's probably why she got the hot spot. So I put some stuff on her and I gave her a bath and she's doing fine. But I haven't seen it. I guess my husband said he saw it on her, but that's fine. But, so so she's sneezing and feeling some stuff and the environment's pretty crazy, ripe for pestilence. He feels the energy, but not like I do. I'm more sensitive than he is when it comes to just feeling the heat rise and fall. Because I'll feel heat rise and fall. I'll be tired, and he has so much to him. He has so much more volume that whatever viral transducer is running through him, he has enough substance to handle the shock waves, so it doesn't affect his hormones. Since I weigh less than him, I'm going to feel more things. And then my dog feels even more stuff, okay? So anyways, so you see it out there in relationships, how the dynamics of energy and people siphoning, energy from their mom, their dad, their sister, their brother, and friends and family and whatever. And so it's now more exponential. You're going to see the acceleration and the magnification of what has gone on before the COVID now, because everything is even more energetic. And so, what was I saying? So heterogeneous type of stuff is where you're bringing two diverse it's two homogeneous people, like two prime numbers coming together, creating a composite. See, I learned a little bit of math stuff yesterday. Not that I learned it, but I was able to apply it to an analogy in my book when I'm trying to explain biodiversity and the microbiome and then the characters, okay? The cast of characters. And so a composite is a cast of characters that make up a whole number. And a prime is where it's only 2 factors that make up that number. And so composites are more diverse or heterogeneous, and they have the ability to evolve. The prime numbers or homogeneous thought processes only have 2 factors. You can have a very large prime number like 97 or something, and that would still be a very highly voluminous, homogeneous thought process. But that, if you apply that into biology, that very large thought process that's very homogeneous, doesn't evolve, will eventually fall. That's like a very obese person is a very large prime number. Okay? And so composites are people who are able to evolve. They're very rich in diversification. They have ideas and they're able to evolve with new ideas. And it translates in the fact that they're able to stay, they're able to reverse the aging process, reverse all their issues, reverse all their deficit diseases by eating all the food in the food supply and feeling the pain and dealing with their shit, dealing with their demons. And so you can have very large composites, like someone that's 10'8", that is still maintaining their control in the environment. And so that's a large composite that is surrounded by homogeneous prime numbers that are kind of keeping things stable. They're dying and reproducing, and maybe you need to have people who are dying and reproducing. So that's fine. If you want to be the sacrificial lamb, you don't have to die and reproduce. You can reproduce and stay alive, and you don't have to die. See, that's the thing that I'm trying to introduce, is that, when that meme about what would you say to your 18-year-old self, The 3 words that you would say to your 18-year-old self if you could say it today, and I said close your legs. Yeah, close your legs and open your mind. Close your legs, open your mind, and learn everything and understand the world, and then go and procreate. And then after you procreate, you're still going to stay alive. You don't have to die after you freaking, had a baby. And so that's what I would tell myself, to close your legs. And then once I finally figured out all my shit, then yeah, go and give the world to the world, right? And so, because right now we have people who are opening their legs too soon, and guess what? They haven't resolved their issues, and now we have these kids or these adults that are still trying to evolve in a society that's very unforgiving. And then we have criminals and just fights and all that stuff, and people just at war with each other constantly. And so, yeah, so I learned about prime numbers, and so I learned some math stuff yesterday about composite, and then trying to explain biodiversity in the microbiome. And the microbiome is a composite. What would be a prime would be like a quark, right? Like a quark. When you can reduce everything down to its most common denominator, a quark is the common denominator in everything. Okay, and so when you take a number, you find the common denominator in a number or numbers, and that's how math and biology and science and physics and chemistry, that's all how they work together. Computer science, English, it's all chemistry. It just happens that you translate it from a number to a word to then actions, but those actions are predicated upon numbers and words. But it also is predicated on sound, and that sound is being projected, and then it reaches another thing, and then the other thing is reacting. And so it's just the whole constant laws of motion, and it's all physics. I mean, it comes down to physics, of course. And so anyway, so I wanted to paint that picture of a bird's eye view of the zombies that are converging upon a protein or a person that they don't agree with, and it's a feeding frenzy. And that's what cancer is. Cancer is a feeding frenzy, cannibalizing the host. And so, yeah, what does the government do, and what does academia do, or the medical system do? They try to stop the cannibalization. They stop the energy, they stop the replication, but the person's still at a deficit, and no one has taught the people who are dealing with cancer that they wouldn't have to have cancer and get all these different chemotherapies and radiation and cannabis if they would just feed their fucking bodies so they're not at a deficit. The reason why cancer converges is because you're at a deficit. But you got to deal with pain of the coding. You got to deal with the mucus. You got to deal with facing your demons. You got to deal with some PTSD, because that's all going to come up. Oh, but no, the medical system, even though the government is trying to stop the tumors and the cancers and all of that stuff, and even in the groups out there, the cancerous groups out there that are trying to be too influential, what happens is then the host that's full of cancer eventually dies, because they couldn't handle the energy of the chemotherapy and the cannabis. They couldn't handle the energy of the radiation. And you see it, people at the end of their line. Yeah, you can see people that had chemotherapy 10 years ago and they still look great, but they're still aging. Yeah, they kind of sort of stopped that evolutionary process and slow down the aging process, because evolution can age you as well. It's relative to which is relative to your perspective. Okay? And so some people have so much substance to them that they can withstand the chemotherapy, and they still look relatively okay, and they can still be alive, but they're still aging. They still can't handle that amount of energy that was forced upon them because of that cancer stuff. Instead of feeding the body, they were taking more from them. But they could afford it. Not everybody can afford having energy being taken from them in body, mind, and spirit, and in the bank account. But we have parents, and we have kids, and we have people who are willing to sacrifice themselves for their friends and their family, because that's what people were taught, is that you sacrifice yourself. If you're a good friend, if you're loyal, if you're blood or something, you sacrifice yourself. You just fall on the cross. And we have so many martyrs and families and circles of friends and groups of people and out there in the activist world, so many martyrs. They fall on their own sword. Something happens and they contract cancer, and everybody thinks it's the government that did it. I mean, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. No one knows. But I mean, it's pretty crazy. And so people stopped dying, then we wouldn't have all these conspiracy theories of why someone died. If everyone just lived, maintained control, the conspiracy theories would be done with. But no, when you choose to pass away and cannibalize yourself and other people, then you leave then people speculate why you passed away. And then all the conspiracy, then that's when people demonize each other. Oh, this person killed this person killed it, No, it's your whole belief system and your lifestyle that caused you to be in such starvation mode that you couldn't withstand the environment no matter what. Oh, but no, people have been brainwashed. So, but here's the thing. You must stand on your own 2 fucking feet. You don't need to depend upon so many people out there. The reason why you do depend upon your friends and your family, not maybe a significant partner that is on the same path as you, is because you're at a fucking deficit, major deficit. And guess what? The people will take your resources from you because you don't know how to regenerate. And so when someone serves themselves on a platter to their friends, to their family, to their mom, to their dad, to their sister, to their brother, they're basically saying, here, just take bites off of me. Please, just deplete me. When you're at a deficit, you are serving yourself up to everyone out there. And guess what? The predators see it. The predators get wind of those weaknesses and they find and they converge. And that is the zombie apocalypse. It's when all the weak people start wailing into the wind. And then the predator sniffs the wind like a zombie sniffs the wind for that alive person. Some kind of pheromone that a live person gives off or a weak person gives off. And guess what? The predators are right there at the door waiting to start taking bites. And that is the zombie apocalypse. You're watching it right now in your community. And so guess what I do? I stay and watch from my computer and I don't deal with anyone unless they're willing to. I'll deal with people on a minimal basis. But as soon as you start trying to siphon the energy off me, I don't care what it is, with expectations or whatever, then you have to learn how to go and regenerate on your own. Because I'm not to be served up to nobody. You must stand on your own. If not, then you will either try to siphon energy off people or people are going to siphon energy off of you. And I don't want to take advantage of anyone, and I don't want anyone taking advantage of me. And so guess what? I just stay where I am. All right, have a good day. Bye.